class, hopefully you're going to finish your research and note-taking on your delegate. Keep in mind, you're using this document and these two sources, the American National Biography site located through the Arundel Family Library online, and this site here. Especially with the American National Biography site, you're going to get a lot of information about their childhood and things like that, and you do want to record that. That is part of your delegate's story. However, you really want to focus your note-taking on the time period between 1765 and 1787. What that will entail will depend on who your delegate is. So, did they go to college? Did they graduate? Most of them did not. What did they do for a living? What were they doing between 1765 and 1775? So between the Stamp Act and right when the war started. Did they have positions in government? Were they members of the Sons of Liberty? Did they take part in boycotts or other protests against Great Britain? Were they loyalists at first and then converted to being a patriot? What were they doing during the war? So between 1775 and 1783. Did they hold government positions? Did they serve in the military? Did they serve as an ambassador to France or something like that? Any time you come across anything with their views on government, slavery, basic rights people should have, purpose of government, wow, that's important stuff you really want to focus on because that is what you're going to want to really embrace at the Constitutional Convention, your delegate's view of government. Did they do your notes say anything about their thoughts on Shays' Rebellion? They may not, but they might. If they do, take notes on that because you'll read about that in homework tonight, Shays' Rebellion and why that's such a big thing leading into the Constitutional Convention. So in class today, hopefully you will finish your note taking. You do have homework, TCI homework. So you have already read Forming a New Nation. And you have read Lesson 8, the Introduction. For homework, you're going to read Lesson 8, Section 1, Section 2, and Section 3. Section 3 is the longer of the three sections. Just keep that in mind. The first two sections are relatively short. You do not have to take notes, but you certainly can if you want to, if that helps your learning. What you're going to learn about is early quarrels and accomplishments. So the government under the Articles of Confederation does some things well. It wins the Revolutionary War and signs a really good peace treaty with Great Britain in 1783. So the government in Philadelphia under the Articles of Confederation does get some stuff done. You're going to learn that they also do this, what's called the Northwest Ordinance and some other land ordinances as well. Some good stuff. But you're going to learn that by and large, and you actually already have learned through our discussions, that by and large, the government under the Articles of Confederation, the central government under the Articles of Confederation, is a pretty weak government. And here is a key example of Massachusetts, the state government of Massachusetts, not being able to deal with this uprising, this rebellion for almost over a year. And then the central government not being strong enough to be able to help them out either. That's really going to be the event that leads to a call for a convention. Now, there's a lot of other things that are happening also. This was just the feather, as they say, the feather that topped off all the other problems and the weaknesses under this government. You're then going to read Section 3, Opening the Constitutional Convention. Again, this is a slightly longer section, but read through it. And don't forget, as you're reading, use the tools the textbook gives you. Look at the pictures. What are the pictures about? So that's your textbook reading. And a few things to end with. Just keep in mind that the Articles of Confederation were written in 1777 by Congress in Philadelphia, but they don't go into effect because each of the 13 state governments has to say yes, and it takes them 4 years to get around to that. So the Articles of Confederation don't go into effect until 1781. The Articles of Confederation creates a government with only one branch, not the three branches that we're used to today. There's no executive, there's no judicial, it's just one branch, it's one body called the Congress, which you're going to find is one of the other reasons that this is a weak central government. Real power, real political power rests with each of the 13 state governments between 1781 and 1789. And we're going to find out, even when the Constitution comes into effect, the state governments are still powerful. Today, in 2019, each of the 50 state governments still have real political power, even though we often look at the United States federal government as, quote unquote, the government of the United States. And it is. It's a powerful, the federal government is powerful as can be. But each of the 50 state governments also have their powers even today in 2019. So keep that in mind. But at the time, under the Articles of Confederation, real power is actually with the state governments, and the federal government the central government had very, very little power, particularly the inability to tax. So just as a little bit of a reminder there. So finish your note sheets, a little bit of TCI textbook reading, and I look forward to seeing you next class period.